With commentary and analysis on our hometown teams, this is the Bucky and Sully Show. Presented by Dave's Christmas Wonderland. 2 locations, Union Road, Cheektowaga, and Transit Road, Williamsville. Now, from the WBBZ-TV studio, here are Buffalo News sports columnists Bucky Gleason and Jerry Sullivan.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Bucky and Sully Show. I'm Bucky Gleason. I'm here with Mike Harrington, Jerry Sullivan, taking a little breather. I have to warn you, Mike is usually a very upbeat, positive guy. He's a little grumpy today.
A lot grumpy. I mean, between UB and Bobby Hurley, the Bison's game gets postponed by wind, this whole Sabres shenanigan. Maybe it's the chair I'm sitting in, Bucky. I think Sully's diffusing into my personality.
It's contagious, that's right.
Holy cow.
Well, let's start with the news of the week, really, and that is that Bobby Hurley left the University of Buffalo for Arizona State, and that is the first thing that has Mike upset. Look, here, basically what happened is Hurley was looking to stay. At the end of the season, Bobby Hurley was staying in Buffalo. I am convinced of that. I was around him for the last 2 years. He had never lied to me before. I didn't get any sense whatsoever that he was going to do anything but build this program until things started to fall apart a little bit at UB. And when I say fall apart, I mean there was a bit of a communication breakdown between Bobby Hurley and Danny White when he came back from DePaul. From what I understand, Danny White was not thrilled that Hurley went to DePaul to interview for that job or meet with those people, and then had a chilly response when he returned. All right, now that started the ball rolling.
There's 2 things here, Bucky. The first is I'm upset at UB for letting Bobby Hurley leave, even though they worked hard to keep him. And we'll get into that. And I'm upset at Bobby Hurley, too. And right now, I'm actually more upset at Bobby Hurley. And let me tell you why. 2 years, has never been a head coach before, has a terrific record, gets them to the NCAA Tournament for the first time, loses a first-round game. Okay, now we know that these coaches at this level are going to leave. They're going to go to bigger schools, bigger conferences, and have bigger paychecks. Everyone knows that's the deal. If Bobby Hurley stays one more year at UB with the team he has coming back, with the recruiting class he has coming in, maybe he wins 23, 24 games, maybe he actually wins a game in the NCAA Tournament, maybe he goes to the Sweet 16, not a ridiculous thought out of the Mid-American Conference, he could get a much better job than Arizona State. I'm glad he didn't take the DePaul job. Right. But Arizona State is not a great job other than great weather. It's going to pay him 3 or 4 times. They're in the Pac-12. They're not going to win anytime soon, no matter what people tell you. They're going to have to recruit against Sean Miller in Arizona, which is the big dog in the state. They're going to have to recruit against UCLA. This really is annoying to me from the standpoint of this is what mid-major basketball is, and we can talk all about how UB messed this up, and they did mess it up in certain ways. I think 551 might be the new number you can explain, like 5 for 25 with the Sabres situation. But this comes down to Bobby Hurley basically being a mercenary, using UB to get a bigger paycheck, and the first chance he had to skip town, he skipped town. But the kids have to be committed to the school and be committed to the program, and this is another example where the coaches can just do whatever they want and fatten their wallets, and I'm not happy about it at all.
All right, well, when you look at it, Mike, you know, in the situation, he came here for 2 years and he had no experience. He did a lot to help this program. He also, you know, they did a lot for him. There's no getting around that.
Right.
And in fact, I've written and told Bobby Hurley to his face, I thought he should stick around.
This is the school that gave you a job for the first time as a head coach when you wanted to get back into this whole situation.
But it wasn't Buffalo. It wasn't even for UB's case. It was for Hurley's. I thought it was in Hurley's best interest because if he comes back and has, I'm thinking 25 wins, and you're 67, you have 67 wins in 3 years on your stock goes up.
You're going to get a better job than Arizona State.
You're going to wind up making more money. Now Hurley, from what I understand, at Arizona State, first year he's going to get $1.2 million, and then it goes up every year by $100,000 until the last year it goes up by $200,000. So it's 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, 1.5, 1.7. And that's a lot of money. Now that's an average of, you know, what, around 1.45 million or so,
and then
which is about $900,000 a year more than UB was willing to pay. Or how about this? It could have been that's all UB had. Now I'm not discounting that. Now Hurley wanted to be the highest paid coach in the conference. And I thought that he had deserved that, you know, for what he did with the program, and he spread the word nationally. He used his name to help UB. They offered him $551,000. Now, now I know you're laughing because it does look like it could be a slap in the face, and that's how
it is.
And that's how it was perceived. Now, Danny White had to work hard to come up with that money.
Look at these numbers here.
Well, that's
Bucky.
now you're talking about the reality.
Are you going to be in the game? Are you not going to be in the game? I mean, Wichita State and Gonzaga, I kind of throw out. They've kind of ascended into a different level, even though they're mid-majors. But when you're talking Northern Iowa, Belmont, some of these other schools paying, even UAB, which dropped their football program, they're paying their basketball coach $525,000. The reality here for UB is if they want to be in big-time athletics, the basketball coach is going to have to make $600,000, $700,000. And can't make $300,000 like Bobby Hurley started out. And that's just the reality of it. I don't like it any more than anybody else connected to UB probably does, but they are underpaying their coaches, and unless they get in the game, this cycle will continue. They'll have a coach, he'll win, he'll get a couple years in, and he's going to go somewhere else for a lot more money. UB has to decide, are they in this for real or not?
Well, and the whole thing too, Mike, is that, you know, the $551,000, it wasn't like that figure alone. I mean, that he was almost, you know, doubling his money. He went up over $300 last year, so his base salary was $250. He made about $300. They were offering him $551. So, you know, it's not like it's some terrible deal, but it's also not in line with what the others are making. When you look at it, it's hard when you're at a mid-major to keep your coaches. VCU had Shaka Smart. Shaka Smart stayed there, but VCU had to pay him every year. He went back to the athletic department and said, I could leave for this job, and they kept jacking up his salary. That's how he got up to 1.5. And he got to the
Final Four. He got to the Final Four. They got into the Atlantic 10. How much was Shaka Smart worth to VCU just in terms of merchandise, tickets, and then talk about admissions, all those other ancillary areas that a school gets the benefits from?
There's more. Now, there's also a school like Richmond, which I pay attention to because my kid's a student there, but when you have guys like John Beeline, he was there, did a great job at Richmond for a few years, and then took off. He went to West Virginia, and now you see him at Michigan. They had Jerry Wainwright. He was there for a few years, had a few good years, and then he went to DePaul, actually.
And failed.
Well, there's a long list of people that have failed at DePaul, which is why it's a bad job. Now Richmond has Chris Mooney, who's been there, and he's done a very nice job. Princeton guy, good coach, and schools were starting to come after him too. You know, I don't know, it was Wake Forest or Georgia Tech or one of those schools in the ACC. They started to look at Chris Mooney as a guy. He runs that Princeton offense. He knows it. He's a class act. He runs a great program. Well, Richmond, rather than getting into this cycle of bringing guys in for 3-4 years and watching them walk out the door, they raised the salary, and they took him over $1 million and said, look, we're going to make this commitment to you. We want you to make a commitment to us. And I think he's signed now through 2020 season or something like that. Well, for the next several years.
Let's look ahead here for a second now. I think UB still has a great opportunity here. People loved what they saw this year. They love the idea of this team is really becoming hot in Buffalo. They made the tournament. People are going to go to games next year, whether Bobby Hurley was there or not.
I think it could be the third franchise.
It could be the third franchise, but what do they do now? Who do they go to? Do they need to win the press conference again and get another big name in here, or do they just promote Nate Oates from the staff and let him take this program over and ostensibly maybe keep some of the players?
You know, it's going to be interesting to see which way, because I think the next hire will tell you how serious they are about winning. Now, Danny White brought in Bobby Hurley because he wanted a big name, yes, but he wanted to win. And when you win, it gets expensive.
It does.
And there's no getting around that. He could either pay Bobby Hurley to win, or he can pay Bobby Hurley's replacement to win. Now, it might not cost him $552,000 the first year, but it's going to cost you at some point, or you're going to see that person walk out the door. So they have to decide what they're going to do. Now, they have Nate Oates, who is Hurley's top recruiter and top assistant. He's there now. Now, he did a great job recruiting, but it's a lot easier to recruit when you're selling Bobby Hurley, not Nate Oates.
Right.
And I think he's a good coach. He had a very good record in high school. And, you know, he may be ready for the job. I'm told that he has an inside track on this gig, which would be, that's fine. Is that what you're going to do? Or do you think bigger? Do you go back to Duke and look at a somebody like Chris Collins,
right,
who's looking for his first job.
I think
you're seeing the top assistants.
The Duke connection again with Danny.
Sure.
You wonder if he's going to look.
Or do you go, there's Kevin Kewick, who's done a very good job. He's from Lackawanna. People know him. He went to St. Francis.
Sure.
He is Archie Miller's top assistant at Dayton. So there's another guy that that can come in here and run that program. And these are the things that Danny White is up against. But one thing that's not going to change, Mike, is that if you win, it gets more expensive. And at some point, you are pricing yourself out of Buffalo.
Well, I'll try to get in a better, one thing won't change, I'll try to get in a better mood for the next segment.
All right, well, good luck with that. All right, let's go to the trivia question here, Mike. We have Mike Buchkowski coming on next. So he's the Bison general manager and vice president and a great guy and a Buffalo boy. Anyway, here we go. Dating back to 1933, the Buffalo Bisons have appeared in the Governor's Cup 10 times. How many have they won? We will bring you the answer right after the break.